Mark, that is a brilliant question, but there are just hundreds and hundreds. And so I haven't prepped the answer to this question because I could just pick brilliant initiatives. And it feels unfair to talk about some, but I'm going to perhaps talk about three, some old ones and some new ones, and like a big one, or two big ones, but turning point in Birmingham and London were huge trials that demonstrated diverting people away from court actually has a beneficial effect for a certain cohort of individuals. If you want to prevent crime, to a certain extent, for some people, court is criminogenic, which is a real anathema to policing. Replicated in London and actually corrected quite a lot of bias within the criminal justice system. So we can dig into that. I thought Lorraine Mazarol's work in Australia on procedural justice was game-changing, taking Tom Tyler's theory and then applying it to breath tests. And you can hear the penny drop moment when you explain the story to officers, mostly officers who are saying, just blowing that, mate, and on your way, compared to, the hardest part of my job is telling someone they've just lost a loved one for drink driving. So they're like two big ones. And then I love the little ones. So there was a guy called Jim McGee in the Met when I was in the Met who just did a very simple trial where for low level calls to the police in relation to theft of bike, theft of car, they didn't get any investigation. Should we phone them back and update them, or do we just file it at source? And half of them got the phone call and half of them didn't. And they were all surveyed for confidence in police, and just a profound effect with one extra phone call. And if I'm allowed one more, another guy, William Hodgkinson, two different types of domestic abuse panic alarm, one really expensive, one really cheap. And again, well, let's test this to see what the long-term impact is. But literally, Mark, I could talk to you about 100. I love that sex offence training I think it was in Queensland in Australia again, where they did the sex offence training, but then half of the people went on the course, half didn't go on the course, and they tracked long-term court outcomes and investigative outcomes for rape and serious sexual offences, and they found a profound difference, but it was quite gender specific. So the big difference was in female investigators, not male investigators. So much that evidence-based policing turns up is unintuitive, and it's like, right, now I get it. So, and I could talk to you about another 50 if you wanted.
Yeah, so we replicated research from Sacramento. We heard it through the grapevine, and we did it in the precinct I'm working. And we did it with Stijn Ruiter. He is also known from the NSCR, and it was very interesting. It was also an experiment to experiment with this type of research within the police, and we think it was quite successful. So we could arrange it within the existing policy, and there was effect on the focused deterrence conversations we had with like prolific offenders, and now Stijn is writing the paper. And then we want to do some more research within the Dutch police. And if the results are consistent, then we think we've got some gold in our hands. And then we think we can convince also Dutch police in a broader sense that evidence-based policing is contributing movement to the force.
I think we do a lot of research as researchers within the police, but we are a lot of our research is focused on phenomena and giving more insights in the phenomenon of crime. And we need to shift to doing more evaluations and to look at the effect of interventions. So I think we could do more on that, and that's so we don't have really good examples yet because we just started. So Women has done, I think, the first formal evidence-based research in the Netherlands.
Yeah, you know what? There are a lot, but I want to highlight one from partners of ours, not far, Barrie, Ontario, the Barrie Police Service. Chief Rick Johnson up there, very engaged in EBP, and recently they decided they're going to change their uniforms. They're going to change their vehicles, and the issue became what's one of the number one things we hear here in Canada. I'm sure it's no different everywhere. Is communities asking, "Hey, why aren't you more visible? Why aren't you more visible?" And of course, we know in our communities there's more and more cars on the road. There's more and more activity. People are more and more distracted. So how do you make sure you're visible? Well, you make what you're driving visible. And so what Chief Johnson did is he brought in academics, he brought in the research, he brought in the science to say, how do I make this car as visible as possible? And the research that they've published on it is really intriguing and interesting for everybody to sort of gather and can jump to. But the proof is really in the pudding. I was up meeting with them, and as I'm driving up, a police car went by, and what drew my eye right away is that police car, which normally, of course, it would because I'm in policing, but it was how quickly, it wasn't a second or 2 seconds, it was almost instantaneous. And it's because of how they pick the colors that will draw the eye's attention, the mind's attention to it quicker. Like those types of decisions based on, psychology and medicine and it was just a really unique piece of research and something that's really worth reading because we haven't done it from that perspective. And it produced something, when you look at the car, quite frankly, it's not that attractive until you realize that car is about being visible to our community and sending a message, and it sends it. The police are here and we want you to see us. If it isn't published yet, it's going to be. It has been done to be peer reviewable.
I had 3 that I wanted to talk about, but I'll say one. Pick one. This is a shameless plug for myself, and it's just we did a lights on, lights off study in California, and I came from Vallejo, which is Northern California, a very up-tempo department. We had 150 allotted officers, and we were down to 70 something for a city of 120,000 folks. 30 murders, 269 shooting events, or something to that effect. You get the picture. Up-tempo department with a lot of challenges. And we did a lights on, lights off study. And what that was it tested, the hypothesis was, would lights on in a high density shopping center during the Christmas holiday season impact theft from auto? And what we did is a 34-day study, real quick and easy. It was a randomized control trial. And so 17 days were lights on versus 17 days lights off. And we stratified it for the weekend and all that good stuff. And what we found was when the lights were on during that study, again, this is practitioner led, we had 0 motor vehicle thefts, as opposed to when they were business as usual, lights off, we had 4. And so again, not a big sample size, but the simplicity of the design, the ease of replication, I think was really powerful for us. And it let our officers know, the younger officers know that, hey, we could do these studies. How do we know this works or not? Well, let's test it. Let's put these lights on, these code 2 lights, which are our yellow amber lights, and let's cruise around our holiday shopping center for 34 days and figure out what works and what doesn't. And again, as you know, in evidence-based decision making, it's all about comparison groups. And we had strong comparison groups, and we had the methodology set up by our PhD at BetaGov. And it was successful, and it showed our folks the value of evidence-based decision making. To the Justice Lights On, Lights Off study, you'd find it crimesolutions.gov. We did one too recently with on training, but you said one. I don't want to get into the other one, but the other one was through. So the other one, this is a shameless plug for Eric Duglanowski and John DiCarlo. And what we wanted to find out was, this is a use of force study, and this is actually in Las Vegas. And so the hypothesis is contagious fire. And so this is from, the work of, I believe it was Klinger and White, that said that if they studied, I think it was in the 70s and 80s, we wanted to know if an officer fired, would other officers fire more than not? All officers were given a scenario responding to a emotionally disturbed person, and they were given the study, and then the Confederate either fired or didn't. And what we found was when the Confederate, who was part of the study, fired, found that officers fired significantly more than those that didn't. And so what that does for us is it informs the profession, it informs us in training about the phenomenon of contagious fire training. And so, as you know, in the States, and I'm sure you guys train the same way at the range, you go on the line, okay, line is hot, okay, fire, right? And everyone fires. And I think it conditions our folks. And now we have to think about the importance of that training. We also have to think about the importance of dispatch priming and how our officers are primed to a call. And so all these things were valuable for us to be a part of the study. And again, letting our people know that, hey, evidence-based decision-making is an important thing. And this is going to impact training for us here in our department and in the profession as well.
The one that just comes to mind straight away is the work that Detective Sergeant Stacey Rothwell led in Kent Police, where she implemented rapid video response to family violence incidents. So instead of sending a police car around there with 2 members, these were the non-critical, urgent type family violence incidents. The person calling police would instantly be connected via a video link to a operational police officer from that area, not a call centre, and they would instantly triage that job and do their risk assessment and provide the support they needed. Now, there was a lot of risks with that. Like, was it going to work? Would people engage in the process? How was it going to affect what the police did? The value in that strategy was the fact that she tested it. She had a treatment group and a control group. And what she could show definitively was that it increased arrest by 50%. It reduced the time to attend, not by hours, but in some cases by days. It led to a whole range of benefits for domestic and family violence incidents. Look, we know that responding to family violence takes an inordinate amount of time now for frontline police. It can be half their shift. And not only that, we always need to improve the outcomes for family violence. That was a fantastic trial led by an officer in the field, a detective sergeant, who tried something different but implemented it in a way where she could properly show the results. And those results now are not just filtering across the UK, they are filtering across policing internationally. And it's challenging the way in which police think about how they respond to family violence. Doing it in a more effective way, doing it in a more efficient way, and getting better outcomes for victims. So that's the classic. Led by the front line, tested with really rigorous methods, with great results and insights that we would never know if we didn't adopt an evidence-based approach.